I want to take you on a thought experiment, where in the perhaps not too distant future, technological advancements have enabled the development of brain implants that are capable of triggering any desired sensation on demand. Picture a device that allows individuals to summon up the most euphoric feelings at the simple press of a button. Now, consider the potential impact this could have on human civilization. Consider how many people might choose to spend their days immersed in these controlled ecstasies, sequestered from the world in a self-styled paradise. I'd wager that number would be significant. Let us take this to a blunt extreme. Consider the parallel to the effects of substances like heroin and other opioids. Now, I'll reassure you that I've never consumed such substances, but those who have, recreationally, report the experience to be the highest form of pleasure conceivable, a total obliteration of pain. They report that experiencing such extreme bliss, even if for once, leaves a lasting mark on a person's psyche, opening wide the doors to addiction. Imagine being blind from birth and gaining sight for a moment. Now you realize what you were always missing. It could even be called a spiritual experience of sorts, an awakening to the sheer extremes of tranquility. I hope this helps to illustrate the scenario we're dealing with, only our case is much more seductive and much more insidious. In our case of the brain implant, we are merely simulating such experiences. They can be started and stopped at will, and they offer no physical drawbacks such as sickness, overdose, or withdrawal. So again, if everyone had access to such an experience through a mere implant, it stands to reason that many would choose to indulge incessantly. Within the scope of physical and sensory experience, it would be the absolute climax of pleasure, overshadowing all other forms of physical joy, an endpoint in humanity's quest for physical satisfaction. There is simply nothing more to gain. Okay. Now let us consider the question of why anyone would opt not to indulge in such perpetual bliss. I think most of the reasons we might suggest regarding other meaningful aspects of our individual lives will be naive. Ultimately, we would just not care about them as much as we think we would when faced with this opportunity. And in an advanced technological society that is perfectly managed by machines and automatons, where every need is anticipated and fulfilled, the pursuit of uninterrupted pleasure could seem the only logical engagement left for humanity. Of course, I am using this scenario as an analogy for a much more general point. It is not a perfect analogy, but it will do. So you are advised not to focus on its imperfection for now. And it is in no way a comment on the weakness of the will of man, for the value of the pursuit of pleasure has had a solid intellectual foundation since time immemorial, from the egoistic theories of philosophy and psychology to the hedonistic theories of biology and neuroscience, and to the utilitarian theories of society and politics. The pursuit of pleasure in such frameworks is not only rational, but morally compelling. But as I'm sure many of you will already be thinking, as we progress towards the central point I want to make, this stance is fundamentally inadequate. It is ignorant of an essential alternative, a path that is simply invisible to those wholly ensnared by the sensory world. Individuals immersed in the pursuit of pleasure are effectively turning their backs to this alternative, rendering them oblivious to the realms of deeper truths. After all, one cannot yearn for what one does not know to exist. Now, there are many ways in which people become aware of the existence of this alternative. but since we're already talking in extremes, it makes sense to continue doing so now. And the extreme of this alternative is what has variously been labelled as mystical, spiritual, or religious experience. And why would such an experience allow us to recognise an alternative? Because that's precisely what such experiences are. The essence of the mystical experience is a recognition that there is a basic duality to human existence, and this is the duality between pleasure and righteousness. So, while the peak of pleasure, such as in our example of the brain implant, leads to a focus solely on pleasure itself, the peak of righteousness, which is the mystical experience, leads to a recognition of the interdependence between itself and pleasure. And I'm just using the word righteousness here to refer to something that really cannot be captured by a single word. The reason I'm using this particular word is because it reflects the complementary partner to pleasure as that which motivates human behaviour. By righteousness, I am not simply referring to moral correctness, but to a direct sensation of being aligned with an enduring truth that underpins reality. And this truth does not lead to a disregard of pleasure, but to a recognition that the two go together, such that the pinnacle of human experience is not the apex of pleasure, nor exactly the apex of righteousness, but is only found in the connection between them. Okay, we can now return to our scenario. The main point that I want to make is that the power of righteousness is the only reason why an individual might resist the incessant lure of pure sensory pleasure, especially when facilitated by futuristic technologies like brain implants. The analogy is only imperfect because righteousness is indeed imbued into all sorts of things. It is not just found in the mystical experience. And righteousness is not merely an alternative option, but the singular counterforce in life. Its role is pivotal, fundamental. It is the conduit through which we are drawn towards deeper, more substantive truths about the meaning of our existence. I wholeheartedly believe that this feeling, which we all can feel, and which I will explain further in future videos, is the sole foundation of every single religion that has ever been created. And the true meaning of this word, religion, has nothing to do with any organised doctrine or ritual worship, nor even about any kind of belief in a deity per se. It is about the innate human capacity to perceive meaning that transcends the material and the immediate. The ability to see ourselves as part of something of incredible importance. This is the true religion. It is deeply personal and has no need for external validation or interpretation, for it is just a feeling so strong it can break us away from even the pinnacle of all human pleasure. So, say what you will about institutional religion. Yes, it has many flaws. Yes, it is dogmatical. Yes, it has betrayed its essence time and time again throughout history. But you can say nothing about the true religion. It is right here, and it's in all of us. Forget the word God. We don't need it. Call it what you want. Call it creativity. Call it love. It is the only thing that can divert our attention from pleasure. For even if we resist the pull of pleasure through our own great effort, the battle is futile without the anchoring offered by righteousness. The battle against addiction is not fought on the grounds of willpower alone, and need not lead to a total abstinence of all pleasure-seeking behaviour. It is simply a matter of awareness, of being aware that there is something else out there of equal or greater value, something that is universally accessible.